Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today's reciters are Himani Mataji in Sanskrit and Naina Mataji in English from Canto 3, Chapter 23, verses 16 to 29. Himani Mataji, when you're ready, please start with the invocation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Charine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Text 16. Upari pari vinyastanilayeshu pruthak apruthak tatak kshipteha kashipu bhihi kantam purya kavyajanasanehe.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans and seats all separately arranged in 7 stories.
Tatra tatra viniksipta नानाशिलापोपाशोभितं महामरकथस्थलया जुष्टं विद्रुमवेदिभिः.
Its beauty was enchanted by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald with coral daisies.
द्वाहसु विद्रुमदेहल्या भातं वज्रकपाटवत् शिखरेष्विन्द्रिनलिलेषु हेमकुम्भैरधिश्रितम्.
The palace was very beautiful, with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire.
चक्षुष्मत्पद्मरागार्ग्रैर्वज्रभित्तिषु निर्मितः जष्टुं विचित्रवैतार्णैर्महार्हैर्महाहर्षे हेमतोरणः.
With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold.
हंसपारवतवार्तैस्तस्त्र तत्र निकूजितं कृतिमान्मन्यमानैः स्वानधिरोहया च.
Here and there on that palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons, so lifelike that the real swans rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus the palace vibrated with the sounds of these birds.
विहारस्थानविश्राम समवेशप्राणगणाजिरेः यथोपजोषं रचितैर्वि अस्मपने panavimatmanah.
The castle had pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer yards designed with all eye to comfort. All this caused astonishment to the sage himself.
Idru gruham tat pashyanti nati pritena chetasa sarvabhutashayabhignah pravochat karma chat kardamah swayam.
When he saw Devahuti looking at the gigantic, opulent palace with a displeased heart, Kardama Muni could understand her feelings because he could study the heart of anyone. Thus, he personally addressed his wife as follows.
Nimajjasmin hriday bhiru vimanamidamaruha idam shukla krutam tirtha mashishayapakam nૃణam.
My dear Devahuti, you look very much afraid. First, bathe in the lake Bindusarovar, created by Lord Vishnu himself, which can grant all the desires of a human being, and then mount this aeroplane.
Sa tadbhartuः samadaya vachah kuvalayekshana sarajam bibhrati vaso venibhutasya murdhajan.
The lotus-eyed Devahuti accepted the order of her husband. Because of her dirty dress and the locks of matted hair on her head, she did not look very attractive.
Angam cha malapankena samchatram shabalastanam avivesha saraswatyah sarah shiva jalashayam.
Her body was coated with a thick layer of dirt, and her breasts were discolored. She dove, however, into the lake, which contained the sacred waters of the Saraswati.
Santah sarasi veshmastha shatani dashakanyakaha sarvaha kishoro vayaso dadarshot palagandhayah.
In a house inside the lake, she saw 1,000 girls, all in the prime of youth and fragrant like lotuses.
तान् दृष्ट्वा सहसोऽध्यायः प्रोचु प्राज्वलय स्त्रियः वयं कर्म करिस्तुभ्यं शाधीनः करवां किम्.
Seeing her, the damsels suddenly rose and said with folded hands, "We are yours, Miss. We are your maidservants. Tell us what we can do for you."
स्नानेन तामहारेण स्नानापयित्वा मनस्विनी दुकूले निर्मले नूतने ददुरस्यै च मानदः.
The girls, being very respectful to Devahuti, brought her forth, and after bathing her with valuable oils and ointments, they gave her fine, new, spotless cloth to cover her body.
भूषणानि परार्ध्यानि वरीयांसि द्युमन्ति च अन्नं सर्वगुणोपेतं पानं चैवामृतास्सवम्.
They then decorated her with very excellent and valuable jewels, which shone brightly. Next, they offered her food containing all good qualities and a sweet, inebriating drink called asavam. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Forgive me for any mistakes, please. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Please,
Krishna. Thank you so
please.
much, Himani Mataji and Nena Mataji, for the very nice recitations. So please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki
Prabhupada ki
jai. I've noticed that
jai.
Madan Prabhuji has just joined us. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna everyone. Shri Krishna Mataji, would you like to recite the Mangalacharan?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much. So, dear devotees, if you'd like to join me, please join me behind muted mics. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together. Let's pray very sincerely to their lordships. Hare Krishna. ॐ ज्ञानातिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सवधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरा भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you, dear devotees.
Please join me in the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So thank you so much, Himani Mataji and Nena Mataji, for your beautiful recitation. And thank you so much, Shri Kishori Mataji, for the Mangalacharan. So welcome to the chat class today. And we continue with our exploration of the chapter Devahuti's Lamentation. So today's verses are verse 14 to 20. So and we have introduced the theme of what these verses are in the previous class. So it'll be good to look at where we are today. It's always in terms of this transcendental pastime. So we begin in the last chapter. Swayambhuva Manu, the great emperor, and his queen Kasadrupa, they offered their daughter very willingly to Kardama Muni. And so then Swayambhuva Manu and his queen, they went back to their kingdom, and they went on, with their, daily duties. And these duties are fully dharmic duties because he's the great emperor. And during those times, all the righteous kings would follow the Vedic scripture, Vedic injunctions when they ruled the kingdom, and hence there was a lot of peace, harmony, and everyone was happy because God and Lord Krishna was pretty much in the center of their lives, and thus they were leading their spiritual. They were living their spiritual lives, and after their departure, so like Devahuti and Kardama are beginning their life as husband and wife, and both of them are of very exalted personalities, and as Kardama Muni, like mentioned, pretty they have a light disposition, and they are starting their married life together, and as what we see right at the start is, Devahuti, puts a lot of her, like attention to, so she knows the desires of Kardama Muni, and she fulfills all the desires with submissiveness and with humility. And we also heard Prabhupada in the pulpit, talk about, the duties of, like of a woman, of a wife, which is to be submissive towards the husband, towards the husband. Having said that, in today's contemporary modern culture, this may not necessarily be seen, like in the same way as what it was in the Vedic time. But then at that point of time, we also knew that the husband, who would also be of a similar disposition, would not do anything to really exploit or like do anything that could harm harm the wife. So that's where we begin this particular chapter. And as we do this, we also see some of the cultural aspects that that gets weaved over the last few couple of chapters. And one is really around what is really the relationship between the Brahmana and the Kshatriya, and because this particular union, this particular marriage is with a Brahmana who's Kardama Muni, and a Devahuti who's the princess or the daughter of the emperor Swayambhuva Manu. And so it's a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. So it's really about that particular union that's coming about. And then also we heard a lot about husbands and wives, and what is it that the Vedas, the Vedic scriptures say about the role of a husband, the role of a wife. And so Devahuti and Kardama Muni, they get around to doing their duties as a dutiful husband and as a dutiful wife. And then we see that this is also something that we find ourselves in a role most of the time. So when we come to this particular earth, we take the role of we take multiple roles. So we can, and in this drama of life, of this drama of material life, we perform in like different acts, and one of the acts can be either as a wife or a husband. And and while we do that. We also have to remember that we are also spiritual beings as well. So it's like, we are actors in this particular lifetime. We perform these acts and then we move on, but we should never lose sight of who we truly are as which is a spiritual entity and a servitor of the Lord. And as we go on, we as this drama of householder life unfolds, we can see that Devahuti is not really taking, like care of her body, because she's not, because in her eagerness to serve, her husband, her exalted husband, she neglects herself and she becomes quite weak, as we see in the early part of the chapter, and then. And then you also see that um, uh, and then in one of the verses, she comes across and then she tells Kardama Muni, she approaches Kardama Muni for a boon, for a boon that he has given at that point of time. And Kardama Muni, he looks at her, and and he's filled of love because he sees how much of a sacrifice Devahuti has done on his behalf, and so he really speaks to her in a very very a compassionate manner, and very very thankful manner. And then Devahuti reminds him of like of a progeny of like begetting a child, and that's when Kardama Muni like also like is agreeable to this. And so what they are doing just before these verses really start would be to really prepare the ground, prepare the right environment whereby they can bring a child in a very very spiritual manner. So as we see some of this story unfold, this transcendental story unfold, it might also be worth reflecting on a different on a very exalted couple, and how the situation is slightly different. So I'm going to like move us back to the time where Lord Varaha like appears, and just before, and we see that there is the great sage Kashyap and Diti, his wife. So both again very exalted personalities, like and devotees of the Lord. And what we see here in this particular in this particular story is that there is a union. So Diti approaches Kashyap, and and again to beget a child. And we know what happened then. So so Sage Kashyap Muni was not very very was not very very willing, and he also like warned Diti that this is not really the auspicious, this is not a very auspicious time to do it. However, Diti in that particular moment, although she's the most exalted devotee, but in that moment, she was deluded by the mood of passion, and hence, she was not very submissive, which is one of the which is one of the qualities that the wife should have, as per the Vedic, scriptures towards their husband. And because of this, because it's a inauspicious time, and because the child was born in such circumstances, he was born with a very demonic, like mentality, and as Hiranyaksha, who, pretty much became the terror of the world till, till Lord Varaha, killed him. So we see a very similar, like union that's about to happen. But here you can see the differences, because the differences are very, very significant. So firstly, we know that Devahuti is really approaching Kardama Muni in a mood of submissiveness, and so it's really the right mood. And then Kardama Muni is also very quiescent about this, and he's also agreeable. So that the time is right, the mood is right. And what they're really preparing just before this is they also need to prepare um, the place where they can have this create this progeny. And that's where there is a slight hesitation on the part of Devahuti, because she has not been taking good care of her body, of physical body. And then she has this this anxiety that she may not be desirable to Kardama Muni. And so and she also feels that the hermitage in which they have been living for so many years, that where she has been serving Kardama Muni so much, is really not the place where you want to really bring a child. And that's where she asks Kardama Muni to actually find an appropriate place where they can continue this this journey. And what does Kardama Muni does? He understands, like what is, like what Devahuti is going through. Because as we mentioned, um, uh, a dutiful husband knows the desires of his wife, and a dutiful wife knows the desire of her husband, and they really try to serve each other in the best way possible, and both directed towards towards meeting both their spiritual and their material endeavors. And so Kardama Muni, he conjures up an aerial palace, that Prabhupada says is a castle in the air, but not castle in the air as we all normally understand, because we think of castles in the air as being something which is a figment of imagination. And because we know that realistically, we can't really do that. You can't really build you can't build an edifice which is, like floating. At least man has not really been able to find that yet. He could probably do at some point, we don't know, but definitely not at this point of time. And so Prabhupada in text 12, he in the purport he speaks about the various yogic powers. So he describes some of the examples. So a yoga, I mean, when they evoke their mystic powers, can become smaller than the smallest, can become greater than the greatest, can become lighter than the lightest, and they can also create a planet, and they can also influence someone else to their point of view. Now obviously we are not yogis, so we can't do any of these things. And however wonderful and imaginative that may sound. For example, we struggle to influence our own minds, leave alone trying to influence others. And I'm sure many of us who are parents here would truly appreciate that, as our kids grow bigger, our capacity to influence them to our point of view becomes less and less. And but a pure yogi can do that. And hence, or what Kardama Muni does in terms of building an aerial palace is not necessarily something that we should feel very we should doubt, because he was able to do that. Neither should we doubt that a castle can stand in the air, and not like a castle in the air as we understand, but a literal aerial palace which can go from place to place. So that's where we are. And what we are going to be doing is to understand a little bit of what those a description of that particular palace, and that's what the rest of the verses today are. So I'm going to bring the verses up my screen, and we will read through them. Just a moment. So we are going to be doing verses 14 to 20. And I'm going to read the Sanskrit, and I will invite like volunteers to read in English. Text 14-15. दिव्योपकरणोपेतं सर्वकालसुखावहं पट्टिकाभिः विचित्राभिरलङ्कृतं सृग्भिर्विचित्रमाल्याभिः मञ्जुषीर्षडग्रभृभिः दुःखोलक्षौकमकौशेर्य नानावस्त्रैर्विराजितम्. So let's move on to the translation. So would somebody like to read the translation for us? Anyone, please unmute yourself.
Yes, please, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Translation. The castle was fully equipped with all necessary paraphernalia, and it was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So the next few verses are going to be quite are beautiful descriptions of the palace that Devahuti and Kardama Muni are going to be living in. And as we go through this, let's really try to go deeper into like imagining how this particular palace could look like. So let's think of this as being this aerial palace, and we can even close our eyes if you want to really imagine how that looks like. So it says that the castle is fully equipped with all the necessary paraphernalia. So what do we do when we are moving to a new house? When we are moving to a new house, um, uh, and I'm sure many of us have had this experience. What you really want to see is that you want to have a house where you can which has all the amenities, and right from like what you need in the kitchen, from what you need like in the laundry, in the bathroom, in the bedrooms, in the living room, etc. So this castle that Kardama Muni has created is fully equipped with all the paraphernalia that one would expect in any home, so that we can lead a very peaceful and comfortable life. And it was pleasing in all seasons, which is quite interesting. And I keep telling my friends that in UK, if there is one thing that we always would miss, it's the fans during like when it gets really hot, because like our houses are built in a way that that protects protects the heat in the house, which is of course the right thing to do. But then when we have these unbearable heat, like on some of the days, it just becomes completely impossible. But then here you can see that it's pleasing in all seasons, which also means that they have much earlier, during the Vedic times, they had homes that were very comfortable, and like all the modern technology that we see today to make our like houses like comfortable, was already there at that point of time as well. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. Now, if you just do go outside, and if you see, you can see, like there is a lot of Christmassy things going on. And I personally have seen some great examples of lights, which really brighten up the mood. It really adds a lot more life to what can be very dreary. And here we see this particular palace has got flags, festoons. Festoons are small like banners that you normally put in parties, and it's basically just these lines of like triangular paper of all colors. And then it's usually done when there is a lot of celebration that's going on. And then there is artistic work of variegated colors. And it was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers. And then, so what you could also see is that, and these are, very divine flowers. And they come in all perfumes, and they are very sweet. They have some great nectar, and that attracts the sweetly humming bees. And when you look at tapestries, so one of the things that we always do when we go to new home is, we spend a lot of time saying, I need to get the right curtains, I need to get the right cloth, I need to get the right design, and it has to like match the the furniture, the sofas, and the color of the paint, etc. So like all that is going on in terms of fabrics. So can you see how much of this is something that we spend so much of time on? And how Kardama Muni has been able to like do this like so quickly. And a lot of the descriptions means that even at that point of time, things were very opulent. And all that you're seeing, that you think is modern civilization, and that has been done, already existed before. And there are many things, that were there in Vedic times, which is not there today. Like how many of us we see so many charming flowers? Yes, of course, we may have like maybe a rose garden, and but that's really, it's not. I don't think it's flowers all the time. And then secondly, not everybody has those charming flowers anyway. So let's continue with this discussion and with this trying to think of the palace that Kardama Muni has created. So text 16. Upari vinyastan yeshu pritak kshiptai kashipubhikantam paryangavya janasanaihi. So who would like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna, can I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Indra Mataji, and also the pulpit as well.
Okay. Translation. The palace looked charming with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately, arranged in 7 stories. Purport. It is understood from this verse that the castle had many stories. The words Upari, Vinyasta indicates that the skyscrapers are not newly invented. Even in those days, millions of years ago, the idea of building many storied house was current. They contained not merely 1 or 2 rooms, but many different apartments, and each was completely decorated with cushions, bedsides, sitting places, and carpets. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. How wonderful this is. So here there is a palace which looked charming. So it has all the furniture that we would aspire for in our homes as well. So very comfortable beds, couches, fans. Fans existed then as well. So which means that probably they had electricity or whatever it is. So at least all this existed 5,000 years ago at least. And then seats, and then all separately arranged in 7 stories. So today, man is trying to build the highest skyscraper. And I think many years ago there was this thing about who's going to build the the tallest tower. So then we had I was living in Malaysia many years ago, Shri Mataji. So place. So we, it was the KL tower. So it was like the twin towers, which was like 270 meters or so. And then there was something else which came up in Canada called the Sears Tower. And then, or maybe it was Chicago, I don't know. And then we had like many others. And now it's, I believe, the Burj, which is in, which is in Dubai. So we have been trying to construct more and more skyscrapers, and we get this false sense of pride that we have made progress, whereas those in ancient times have not really done this. But if you were to look at some of this, you can very clearly see, and that's what Prabhupada says in this particular purport, that skyscrapers are not newly invented. This entire thing of different layered ways, and then having apartments and having many story houses is not really it's not new. And it's not just been there for the last 2,000 years or so, but it's been there for millions of years. But what's happened, unfortunately, is that we have lost that knowledge, and hence we like to think of it, today's progress as being the pinnacle of human civilization, whereas that may not necessarily be the case. And then Prabhupada also says that they contain not just like 1 or 2 rooms, but many different apartments. So there is also this thing about like people living together. So we think of flats and apartments as being something which is new, but they are not really new, because like many others in the Vedic times, they used to live here. And again, things like cushions, bedsteads, carpets are not new. So today, we everybody takes pride in having a Persian carpet in their homes, or a Persian rug, or one of those mattresses which keep getting more and more expensive as decide to whether to have eider down, etc. So when you see all of this, and when you see this 100% focus on material pleasure and not really and not really keeping the Lord in mind, then you really ask yourself, are we really doing the right thing? Because are we really spending so much of time doing things uh, on topics which really are not so important? And even if we are spending time, are we really using it for the right purpose or not? And we will come a little bit on that towards the end. So let's continue to move on. So we have 17. So text 17. Tatra tatra vinekshiptan nashilpopa shobhitam mahamarakatas. Would like to read this?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Translation. Its beauty was enhanced by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald with coral daisies. Purport. At the present moment, people are very proud of their architectural art, yet floors are generally decorated with colored cement. It appears, however, that the castle constructed by the yogic powers of Kardama Muni had floors of emerald with coral daisies. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. I was there yesterday with a friend who had come from India. So she had come to celebrate for the convocation for her daughter. That's happening on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. So we decided. I mean, we were meeting after many years. So we decided to meet in central London. So we did that, and for some reason I thought of South Kensington because I've not been to that part for a very long time. I used to spend some time when I had first come to the UK, and looking at the museums. It was quite nice. And so my intention was not to take them to the museum because we know that it was a very bright year summer evening morning, and then we thought it'll be best for us to take a walk by Kensington Gardens, but we ended up actually going to the Natural History Museum. And it's I mean, for those of us who have seen it, I'm sure you appreciate it's a beautiful it's got a beautiful building, and we were going, oh, everyone was going like that, and then we went in, and our intention was to kind of just come out very quickly. So we just wanted to do a tour, see the dinosaur, the big the blue whale. I forget his name. So and then we decided, we said we were going to take a short trip, but then I think one trip led to another, or one room led to another, and so we found ourselves suddenly in this particular huge room, and this room had was dedicated to the stones. And as we came in, we could see that there was this huge there's a lot of visitors, and everyone was very, very pouring, looking very, very keenly into the artifacts. And we also tried to just see what they were looking at, and then we could see all kinds of gems, and they really were very beautiful. And some of them were not really in the gem form, but they were larger stones like amethyst, opal, coral. And then we also then there was a pride of place given to this particular ore, which looked very gray and dull. But as we came near it, we could see that there were these shades of yellow, and then it said that it's gold. And then we were kind of thinking, this looks very interesting. So so you could see this palpable excitement that all of us had when we saw some things as beautiful. Obviously, it's very, very expensive, as you could see. And then and here the palace that Kardama Muni has built has had floors of emerald with coral daisies. So do we know what's the color of emerald? Can somebody unmute yourself?
Green, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. So emerald is green, and how about coral?
Aqua
Orange.
blue?
Orange.
Orange, blue. It's kind of a combination because coral, comes in quite a number of colors, and it could be red, it could be orange, it could be green as well. So here, let's close our eyes and think of like a flow which has got coral daisies and emeralds. So there is a green, there is an orange, like whatever, and flowers. So can you imagine how beautiful it must look like? And again, let's look at today's world. So, what do we think of as the architectural pinnacle of human civilization? So, we know about the pyramids because the pyramids were built, like many, like again, many hundred years ago. And yes, I think they definitely are rightfully regarded as one of the great wonders of the world because of the sheer size and also the complexity of that particular structure. How did they get exactly the geometrical, design that that exists today? And it might be quite difficult to actually build pyramids. Of the same size and kind today. And then we also have the Taj Mahal, which is again a shining example of a Mughal architecture, which is very beautiful. And when the Taj Mahal was initially made, it was made on pure white marble, and there were lots of rubies and emeralds and many stones that were adorning it. Unfortunately, like over the years, because we had so much of it was a symbol of love for a king to a queen, and he put in his like heart into it and all his riches as well. But then we know that a lot of the riches, a lot of the the emeralds, the corals, the rubies, the diamonds, everything has been just plundered, and probably it's lying in scattered across the world. And so those are a few shining examples. But then uh, look at the houses that we live in. So yes, I mean in London we have lots of houses, and rightfully we could be proud of our architectural art. But one thing which my wife and I, we keep, like struggling about is why do we have carpets? Why can't we have like tiles? Why can't we have, wooden floors at least? So, and many of us, we just have probably colored cement. So, again, going on to say that this is what was there in Vedic times, and the power of someone like Kardama Muni, and this is where we live in. And yet today, because of our false ego, because we don't really know that there was a world that existed this way before, we keep thinking that like our architecture are the best. But the Bhagavatam tells us otherwise. Text 18. Dvasvedrumah dehalya bhatam vajrakapatavat shikareshvindri nileshu hema kumbhaira dikshritam. Would somebody like to read this?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I?
Yes, please.
The palace was very beautiful, with its coral thresholds at the entrances and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire.
Thank you. So again, this continues. The palace was very beautiful. So it has coral thresholds, and now we can see that there are more gemstones that are coming in. So doors bedecked with diamonds, and then gold. We can also see that it crowned its domes of sapphire. So, do we know what the color of sapphire is?
Blue.
Blue.
Yes, it is. It is blue. Thank you. So you can see how how opulent this particular palace is, and This is coming from the yogic powers of Kardama Muni, who is also a devotee. And let's move on to text 19. चक्षुष्मपद्मरागान् यैर्वज्रभित्तिषु निर्मितैः जुष्टं विचित्रवैतानै महार्हैः हेमतोरणैः. Who would like to read the translation and the purport?
Thank you. I can read.
Thank you, Mataji.
With the choicest rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold. Purport. Artistic jewelry and decorations giving the appearance of eyes are not imaginary. Even in recent times, the Mughal emperors constructed their palaces with decorations of jeweled birds with eyes made of valuable stones. The stones have been taken away by the authorities, but the decorations are still present in some of the castles constructed by the Mughal emperors in New Delhi. The royal palaces were built with jewels and rare stones resembling eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we continue with this, and so now we have rubies. Rubies are red, and they're set in its diamond walls. And then there is a very likeness to. It almost seems as if they are possessed of eyes, and we can also see that there are lots of valuable gates which have been made of gold, and canopies are these like tent-like things which houses some of the courtyards. So so what Prabhupada says in the purport here is that when you look at artistic jewelry and decorations, they may look like eyes, and that's not uncommon because eyes do have a very beautiful shape, and then you can use stones to I mean, artists do get inspired, and then they use that to in their jewelry, when they are crafting the jewelry, they try to bring that appearance of eyes. And Prabhupada also speaks about like over the last like 2000 years or so, when especially when India was governed by the Mughals for quite a number of years, right from like Babur to Aurangzeb. So during that time, they built a lot of palaces, and we did speak about the tomb, the Taj Mahal, and they would their eyes would be made of valuable stones, and again here we can see that there is also certain utility value to this. So when you have those jewels, then you give off reflective light, so there is no need for lamp. But this would be it would be rather expensive for us to actually use jewels and rare stones to give off electricity. So we pay our electricity bills every month on a humorous note. So moving on to text 20. So let's this is the last text for today. So Hamsa vata vratai tatra nikujitam kritriman manyamanai swan ruhya cha. Would somebody like to read this?
I can read it, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Here and there in that palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons. So, life like that, the real swan rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus the palace vibrated with the sounds of these birds.
Thank you, Mataji. So now we are moving. So we're continuing with the description, but we are moving from the opulence of the like of the gemstones, the gold, the diamonds, the sapphires, the rubies, the coral, the emeralds to live swans and pigeons, and we'll continue this in the subsequent verses as well. So here there were a lot of beautiful birds, live swans and pigeons, and then you'd also have artificial swans and pigeons, and the real ones would get confused because they would think of these as the statues as the live birds, and then they would try to there is competition even among the birds, so they will try to keep rising up above them. So this is really um, the description of the palace that Kardama Muni has created, and it's quite it's quite as we go through these passages. One is um, it also shows how much the Bhagavatam is brings to life such poetic aspects. So clearly, as you look at this, as you read this, you can almost like vividly imagine. And so there is a lot of poetry that's going on here. There is also a lot of um, there is also a lot of powers that's going on, so powers that were there in the Vedic times, which has been long forgotten now. And so as Kadama Muni, he's able to build this like aerial palace to for Devahuti, whom he recognizes has spent many years serving him, and now that they are going to beget a child, he's creating the right environment for the child to really come to take birth. And then there is the aspect of there is a transcendental aspect, and that's something that as devotees it's very important for us to really appreciate, because it's fine for us to spend time on trying to like build a house in a way we want to be comfortable in this life, and so it's okay to try to think of and try to make our house beautiful. There's really nothing wrong about it, but then it does get wrong when we are doing this only with a sense gratification. However, if we do this for the to please Krishna, if we do this to please for us to be able to perform our services, devotional service in a better way, then then it's then it may make it worthwhile to spend the time and attention to it, because it's not about in today's world. ISKCON doesn't tell us to lead uncomfortable lives. We are not really required to, be very austere and, like live in, like huts and, and, and keep, going through a lot of like difficult, periods in our lives. So that's not really the intent. The intent is that, yes, I mean, we can live in like as an aristocratic family, as a wealthy family. But what's very, very important is for us to really bring, like Krishna into whatever we do. So, and if you're to look, and this is where I would wanted to just talk a little bit about about the internal aspects and the external aspects. So, so we spend so much of time trying to focus on everything outside looking good that we lose that we lose our attention on developing our inner self, our inner beauty. Yes, you can create a palatial, you can create palaces, you may have the means and the riches to create to create bungalows, may not be adorned with jewels, but definitely very, very plush and opulent, like for these days. But then how much time do we really spend trying to preserve and strengthen our inner beauty? And that's when we really need to think of ourselves as the spirit souls and say, how can I be more beautiful? And how I'm more beautiful is not so much about physical beauty, because as you could see, Devahuti had, in her endeavor to serve her husband in a very submissive, in a very obedient manner, she had lost her attractiveness. And but Kardama Muni, like did not really mind that, because he was not really seeing, Devahuti in, like as a weak woman, as a as a woman who has whose body has become very weak, and not very attractive. So he was looking at the inner beauty. He was looking at her eagerness to please the Lord. He was looking at uh, her like desire to do service to him in a very submissive manner, unlike like the example of Diti, who like was not very submissive at the point of time when she asked Kashyap for to beget a child. So the time, place, circumstances are important, but it's also very important to look at what is really the mood in which we do, and why are we doing this. So and so now you will see later on that um, this palace is not only for both Devahuti and Kardama Muni to have sense enjoyment and to have material pleasures. It's not really about that. It's more about helping to create an environment where they can continue with their service to the Lord, and at the same time also start a family where they would be able to bring to this particular planet children who would who would also be very spiritually inclined. And that's how you really make a very peaceful, harmonious family life. Today, if you look at it, despite spending so much of time on trying to look at material positions, why are we still unhappy? Why are our relationships still not working the way we want? Why are we still having a very why do we feel that our expectations are not being met by our partner? Why do we feel, why there are so many couples who unfortunately decide that marriages are not made in heaven and they would like to part ways, and then there are these divorce rates which are on the increase. Surely when somebody comes together, when we decide to spend life with a partner, the intention is that we would do it forever, at least on this particular lifetime. But why are we making those choices? It's because we are looking a lot at the external aspect of things. We are looking at trying to make we are looking at the attractiveness. We're looking at the false ego. We are connecting with us as the material body and not really the spiritual body. But the moment we try to uh, preserve and strengthen our inner beauty, and that inner beauty can only be strengthened with the mercy of the Lord. So it's really about connecting, strengthening the bhakti in our hearts, and really helping our bhakti to transform ourselves to become beautiful. And when we become beautiful in body, in mind and soul, that's where we get true happiness. So we all aspire for happiness in this world, and what we saw today was just like an example of something that we do. When we get married and when we want to raise a family, we want to try to create a home that's conducive, that's pleasant. And yes, I think while we do need to spend some time there, but it's also equally important, if not more important, for us to preserve and do our spiritual practices that can help become more beautiful, not from outside, but really from within. So as you can see, there are lots of, so you could look at, this as just a story of a couple, and what the husband is doing to to please his wife. You could look at it as an example of powers that existed many years ago during the Vedic times, or as a devotee we can look at what is it that this is telling us. This is telling us about the relationship between a husband and a wife, and how a wife should behave towards a husband, and how a husband should behave towards the wife. And when that happens, then both like it's a win-win for both the husband and the wife, and even the family that's concerned. So with that we come. I pause here and then invite any questions, any reflections on what we've covered today. So it is Devahuti's lamentation, verses 14 to 20. So if there are no more questions, then Shri Kushari Mataji, can I request you to do the final prayers, please?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much for the nice class. So let's all say this prayer together. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji,
you.
for the wonderful class. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
so much for joining today.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.